Hi everybody, this is the chapter 1 lecture video. I'm going to be using the PowerPoint to just kind of use as a basis for what we're going to discuss today. I hope to keep this video short and sweet and to the point so that you can get on with your busy lives. So educational psychology is the study of development, learning, motivation, teaching, and assessment. Many of you are going to take the PLT at the end of this course. 80% of the PLT is educational psychology related, and that is why the class is set up the way it is, and there is so much on you as the learner because it is your responsibility to learn the content so that you are prepared for the PLT. I know a lot of this is going to feel overwhelming, and that's okay because it is a lot of work. All of you can do it, and trust me when I say we have a very high success rate as a College of Education for students passing the PLT after taking the educational psychology class. So there's a reason for the madness. The teacher's sense of efficacy. This is how well do you feel you can do something. This isn't just a self-esteem, like I feel good about myself. This is my confidence level in being able to do this. When I walk into a classroom, I feel confident that I can manage that classroom, whether it be elementary kids, middle school kids, high school kids, college kids. I have confidence in my skills. Now, if you ask me to teach an algebra class, my efficacy is going to be a lot lower. I don't have that same level of confidence that I could teach that particular subject. So just understanding those characteristics on how to build those up in both yourself and with your students as you gain experience. Many of you have heard of the No Child Left Behind Act. This has been reformed into the Every Student Succeeds Act. Basically, every student in grades 3 through 8 have to take standardized assessments, and they have to show adequate yearly progress. The goal was that all students were going to be proficient by the 2013-2014 school year. And as you can probably imagine, that didn't happen because we have a lot of different needs in our kids. The main differences are listed here. The requirement for the proficiency date was dropped. This return of the control to the states for their standards helped, and there was no penalties for, the penalties were no longer central to the law. So it took off some of that high stakes feel. This question, do teachers make a difference? Duh, of course we do. That's why we're going into it. The things that make the biggest difference, the quality of our relationships. You'll hear me talk about that over and over and over throughout the class. I'm a school counselor with an elementary background, so I believe full-heartedly in the power of a positive relationship. We know that experienced teachers really do make a difference, and there is a part of the text that talks about just how big of a difference a good teacher can make in the learning of a student. So I would make sure you read that in the text. Here are 4 general components to good teaching that we see all the time: boundaries, structure, and consistency. Say what you mean and do what you say. Having a general knowledge of what you're going to be teaching, and genuinely caring about the students and their families. I've heard teachers before say, I'm not here to be their friend. We don't have to be their friend in order to care about them, but we really need to care on a genuine level. It can't be superficial. It can't be fake. They're going to know that, and it's going to impact you as a teacher. You need to understand the Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching, the four domains and how they're broken down, because that is basically the foundation for some really good teaching. And there's a link there that talks about how to leverage some of those practices. So the difference between beginning teachers and experienced teachers really comes down to our thinking as teachers. When we are a beginning teacher and we're fresh, right out of college, we have our first classroom, one of the first things that we do is we think, how am I doing? We're so used to being evaluated on what we're doing. And so that's where a lot of our thought processes. It's on us. As we become more experienced, it's less about what I'm doing, and it becomes a lot more about how are my students doing. So that is one of the biggest shifts we see from beginning teachers to experienced teachers. You will need to know some of these names because they are the foundation to educational psychology. What's really interesting is you can see the direct line as they go through the went teacher to student who now became the teacher to the next student. So G. Stanley Hall and John Dewey were both very, very instrumental in the educational psychology movement. So you have heard a lot about research-based practices and evidence-based practices, and we need to use research as our guide for what we're doing. We're not just doing things because this is how it's always been done. There needs to be a reason. Is it effective? Has it been proven? When we talk about those different studies, descriptive studies collect information and they use observation and they tell us, they just kind of describe. A correlation tells us how closely two things are related. The closer that number is to 1, the stronger the relationship. So a 0.9, even if it's a negative 0.9, is stronger than a 0.05, a positive 0.05. Anything closer to 1, either negative or positive, is the stronger the relationship. So just keep that in mind as you're going through that. So that brings us to the end of chapter 1. Like I said, I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Read the chapter. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to open a discussion board for just general questions about chapter 1 so that if you have something like, hey, what does this mean? Or what do you think about this? I can get on there and I can interact also. And I would encourage everybody to get on and say, hey, this is my thoughts on it, kind of like we would have in a discussion in a classroom. I hope everybody's having a great first day of school, and I will be back with chapter 2. Thank you.